Beauty and the Beast. Once upon a time, in a town far, far away, there lived a rich man who had 3 daughters. The youngest daughter was the prettiest of the 3, and so she was called Beauty. She was good and a kind-hearted girl. Her older sisters were nor good nor kind. In fact, they were opposite, selfish and proud. One day, their father came home looking very sad. When his daughter asked him, "What was the matter?" he replied,
"We are no longer rich. We have lost our fortune, and we must all leave this beautiful house and go to live in a cottage in the country."
The older were very angry when they learned the news.
"What shall we do with ourselves all day in the country?"
they asked, but Beauty said, "How nice it will be to live in the country among the woods and the fields and flowers." A few days later, the gentleman found the little cottage with a large garden in the country, and they all went to live. The father worked hard in the garden, growing fruits and vegetables, and made enough to live comfortably by selling them. One day, the father had to go to a distant village to do his business, and so he gathered all 3 of them and informed them that he wouldn't be returning until the next day. He asked each of his daughters in turn,
"Is there any little gift which I might bring home for you?"
The eldest daughter said,
"Yes, diamonds for me."
"Pearls for me," said the second daughter. But Beauty said, "Please, father, a bunch of white roses for me." Then the father rode away on the horse, and Beauty waved to him from the doorstep. When the gentleman had finished his business, he set off for home. Before long, it grew dark, and he lost his way. He found himself in a dense forest, and could not find his way out. Then, at last, he saw a light in the distance, and he rode towards it. However, as he drew nearer the light, he found that the trees formed a wide avenue. He rode up the road, and to his surprise, he arrived at the entrance to a palace. The door of the palace stood open, but there was no one in sight. So the man walked in. He went into a room, on the right of the hall, where the fire blazed in the hearth. There he found a table set, with supper for 1. He was so tired and hungry. And so he decided that if there was no one here, he would have this good meal. And then he would take his horse to the stable. He sat down and enjoyed his supper. After supper, Beauty's father felt sleepy, and crossing the hall, he found a bedroom all ready for use. He went to the bed and slept soundly until next morning. When he woke up, his clothes were missing, but a new embroidered suit lay on the chair in their place. He dressed himself in the new clothes, and then he set off for the stable to see his horse. On the way to the stables, the man passed a beautiful white rose garden. The sight of the white roses reminded him of Beauty's wish, and so he wanted to gather a bunch for her. He had only picked 1 rose when he heard a terrible sound behind him. Turning around, he saw a big beast. The big beast said in a loud voice,
"You ungrateful man, whose food have you eaten? Whose bed did you sleep in? And whose clothes are you wearing? Mine, mine, mine! And you repay my kindness by stealing roses? You shall die. Please do not kill me,
he begged.
Your life will be spared on one condition,
replied the beast.
You must come back here in a month's time, bringing you with whatever meets you on your way home.
Beauty's father could do nothing but to accept his only condition. As the man rode away from the palace, he thought about the promise he had given to the beast. Then he remembered how Beauty stood, waving to him as he left home. An awful thought struck him.
Oh, what if it is Beauty who first greets me on my return home?
Meanwhile, Beauty waited at the window of her room, watching for her dear father to return, when she saw a figure on horseback appear in the distance. She skipped down the garden path. Yes, it was her dear father returning home, but Beauty could not think what was wrong with him. He looked so tired and sad. "Father, are you not glad to see me?" He hugged her little daughter and cried. When they reached the cottage, the father told his daughter of his promise to the beast.
But you must not return with me, Beauty, no matter what happens,
he said. Beauty, however, insisted that once a promise is made, it should be kept. Finally, her father agreed that at the end of the month, he would take her to the beast. The end of the month came so quickly, and the father and his beloved daughter set off through the woods. Towards nightfall, Beauty and her father arrived at the palace in the woods. They walked in and found a dainty supper for the two was laid out on the table. As they sat at the table, a terrible sound was heard at the door. It was the beast. The beast turned to Beauty's father and asked,
Is this the daughter for whom you gathered the white roses? Yes,
said the man.
She need not be sorry,
said the beast.
For everything in the palace is here for her use. Her room is ready now. Good night.
When Beauty reached her room, she found it more beautiful than any she had ever seen. Quite tired out, she was soon fast asleep. In the morning, Beauty and her father had breakfast together. Then they said goodbye. When her father had ridden out of sight, Beauty went to her room. On one wall hung a mirror, and beneath it, in letters of gold, was written, "Little Beauty, dry your eyes, needless are those tears and sighs. Gazing in this looking-glass, what you wish shall come to pass." These lines comforted Beauty, for she thought that if she were very unhappy, she could wish herself at home again. The days which followed seemed long to Beauty. Yet the beast had left many things for her amusement. Sometimes she read, and sometimes she painted. Some days she played outside in the gardens, and on other days she gathered the beautiful flowers. Each evening at the supper the same sound was heard at the door, and a big voice used to ask,
May I come in?
And each evening Beauty, trembling, answered, "Yes, beast." Then they talked together, although the beast's body and voice terrified Beauty. His words were so kind that she soon grew less afraid of him.
Am I very ugly, Beauty?
the beast asked one evening. Yes, beast.
And very stupid?
No, not stupid, beast.
Could you love me, Beauty?
Yes, I do love you, beast, for you are so kind.
Then will you marry me, Beauty?
Oh, no, no, beast. The beast seemed so unhappy that Beauty felt very miserable. But I could not marry a beast, she said to herself. The next morning, Beauty looked into her mirror. I wish I could know how my dear father is, she said. Then, as she gazed into the looking-glass, she saw a sad picture. Her father lay ill in bed, and no one was taking care of him. Beauty cried all day to think of his pain and his loneliness. When the beast paid his usual visit in the evening, he saw how sad Beauty looked.
What is the matter, Beauty?
He asked. She then told him why she was so unhappy, and she begged him to let her go home.
It will break my heart if you go, Beauty,
said the beast.
Yet I cannot bear to see you weep,
went on the beast.
You shall go home tomorrow.
Thank you, beast, said Beauty. But I will not break your heart. I shall come back within a week. The beast looked very doubtful, for he was afraid he was going to lose Beauty forever.
Take this ring,
he said sadly.
And if you should ever want to come back, lay it on your table before you go to bed at night. And now, goodbye, my Beauty.
That night, Beauty looked in the mirror and wished that next morning she might wake up in her father's cottage. Beauty's wish came true, for next morning she found herself at home again. From the very moment he saw her, Beauty's father began to get better. She could hardly believe it when she found a week had passed. But although her father was much improved, Beauty did not feel that he was yet well enough to be left with her unkind sisters. I shall stay for 1 more week, said Beauty, and her father smiled happily at this news. However, only a day or 2 had passed when Beauty had a dream. She dreamt that the beast was lying on the ground, near the white rose bush, in the palace garden. He was saying,
Oh, Beauty, you said you would come back. I shall die without you.
This dream wakened Beauty, and she could not bear to think of the poor beast. She jumped out of the bed and laid the magic ring on her table. Then she fell asleep again. When she woke in the morning, she was in her room in the beast's palace. Beauty knew that the beast never came to see her until the evening. And yet the day seemed as if it would never end. At last, supper came, but the beast did not arrive. Poor Beauty felt miserable. At last, a sudden thought struck her. What if her dream was true? What if the beast was lying on the grass near the rose bush? Beauty ran out into the darkness of the palace garden, made her way towards the white rose bush. There, lying on the wet grass beneath the rose bush, she found the beast. She knelt down beside him on the grass and put her hand on his head. At her touch, the beast opened his eyes.
I cannot live without you, Beauty,
he whispered.
So I am starving myself to death. Now that I have seen your face again, I shall die content.
"Oh, dear Beast, I cannot bear it if you die," said Beauty. "Please live, and I will marry you. I love you, I really do. You have such a kind heart." When Beauty said these words, she hid her face in her hands and cried and cried. When she looked up again, the Beast was gone, and a handsome prince stood before her. When he thanked her for freeing him, "What do you mean?" asked Beauty, surprised. "Oh, I want my Beast, my dear Beast, and nobody else." Then the prince explained.
"A wicked fairy enchanted me and said I must be a beast and seem stupid and ugly,"
he told her.
"Only a beautiful lady who is willing to marry me could break the spell. You are the beautiful lady, Beauty."
Beauty went on the prince. Then the prince kissed Beauty and led her towards the palace. Soon a good fairy appeared, bringing with her Beauty's father. Beauty married the prince, and with her dear father near her, lived happily ever after. The end. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe our channel and press the bell icon to get future updates. And don't forget to comment.